Part 5. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 41. Chapter 41, Unexpected Results. Soon I came to my mountain and found a few plum trees. However, it's not that red yet. Even if there is red, it's all on the sunny side and on the tops of the trees. Mei Shui got a few pills, and after tasting them, she thought they were okay, better than those sweet things. Grandma, please pick them again in a few days, they are too tender to eat now and are very sour. Mei Shui also threw a few popcorn plums away from her hand. It's really so sour. The plums were not ripe and I couldn't eat them, so I had to carry an empty basket back home. Looking at Grandma's somewhat disappointed expression, Mei Shui knew that Grandma was blaming herself. Grandma, it's still early, let's walk slowly. This is my first time to our mountain. Grandma, can you take me for a walk? He was helpless. Seeing her grandma blaming herself, Mei Shui felt very sad, and her good impression of her grandma was completely destroyed this time. How could Grandma he not see through Mei Shui's thoughts? Good boy, it was Grandma who made you feel wronged. She felt very uncomfortable. She never spoke to others on weekdays. She never imagined that she had lost her face for decades just for a few plums. It's just a bit of plum that she has resentment towards her sister-in-law. 2 days ago, Zillion sent her Zioxu some precious jelly. People, it's incomparable. What's wrong with it? Grandma, let's plant some plum trees next to the trees. Mei Shui is also a person who strives for success. She is very used to supporting herself, so she doesn't feel any discomfort. It's just that she didn't want her grandma to suffer. Well, Grandma will dig some plum trees for you, and we will have something to eat at home next year. Grandma he is also a strong person. So the two of them found a few small plum trees on the mountain and dug them directly back. At this time of year, Grandma he didn't even think about whether the plum trees could be planted after being dug up. Looking at her movements, I'm afraid she really thought there would be plums to eat next year. While digging the plum tree, Mei Shui's habit started to trouble her again, and she looked around. Soon she made a new discovery. Grandma, look, she pointed at a low spot on the mountain and shouted softly. Because there were some very familiar pheasants there, with shiny coats, which were very eye-catching. Grandma he looked along Mei Shui's finger and immediately saw the pheasant in the low-lying area. It's so beautiful. Grandma, don't move here. I'll come as soon as I go. Mei Shui was excited. Even with the backpack on her back, she couldn't stop her pace. Like a gust of wind, she approached the pheasant quickly and silently. It wasn't until the 3 or 2 pheasants fell to the ground that Grandma he realized, this girl is not afraid of being scratched by those thorns. There was surprise in her eyes and distress in her tone. After seeing the 3 pheasants she had shot, Mei Shui immediately shouted to her grandma in a low-lying area, Grandma, look, I've shot them, I've shot them. Her face was full of excitement, as if she had shot them for the first time. I see it, I see it. Slow down, there are thorns there, be careful not to break your hand. Grandma he also carried the basket on her back, and put a few plum trees in the basket. Each one has a basket height. The pointed head emerges and flutters in the wind. Grandma, don't come down, I'll be here right away. There is no way down the mountain here, and there are thorns everywhere. Mei Shui is worried about her grandma. Mei Shui moved quickly, put away the pheasant and ran to her grandma. Look, Grandma, she took out the pheasant and showed it to her grandma like a treasure. Looking at the 3 plump pheasants, Grandma he's face was filled with smiles. It's better for me to use Zioxujon. These pheasants are very lively. It's usually difficult to catch them. You can hit 3 of them at once, which is pretty good. Zioxu told her that she was very strong, and Grandma he also had some knowledge, so she was quite able to accept some of Zioxu's abilities. This one is for Grandma to make soup. Grandma drinks the soup and I eat the meat. This one is for making chili peppers. Grandma likes to eat it, but Grandma can't eat too much. The rest is mine. Mei Shui immediately made arrangements. Grandma He was so amused that she couldn't close her mouth. Not only that, the previous gloominess was also dissipated in the joy of getting 3 pheasants. Okay, I'll give it all to you. I won't give it away this time. Come on, let's go home and stew chicken. Grandma He looked doting on her face. After returning home, Mei Shui began to boil water, pluck the feathers, and trim the chickens because they had to eat at noon. Plus it's too hot, so it won't last long. It might as well be cooked into vegetables and hung in the well, which can last for several days. Besides, how could it be kept for several days with her here? If you eat freely, you can get rid of it in one day, but in order not to scare Grandma, she should restrain herself a little. Mei Shui was thinking about it in her mind. At noon, the fragrance wafted out of Aunt He's house again. And Liang, who was more familiar with Mei Shui and Grandma He, was like a cat that saw something fishy. He ran over with a bowl at noon. Before, I was afraid of the third grandma, but now, what are I afraid of? The third grandma is very kind. Mei Shui's meal was just about to be served. Because it was hot at noon, of course, she still had some thoughts in mind, so Mei Shui directly placed the dining table under the sweet-scented osmanthus tree. The sweet-scented osmanthus has been hung in flour bags, and the fragrance has already begun to overflow. Sitting under it to eat has a unique flavor. Seeing the visitor, Grandma He smiled and scolded, "You have a dog's nose." She opened the courtyard door and let An Liang in. "Third grandma, what delicious food did my sister-in-law make today? It's so fragrant that I can smell it at home." An Liang said he was not afraid, but felt a little bit confused in his heart. "You're already smelling it, and you don't know what to eat yet. Come and sit down quickly." He picked up a piece of chicken from the bowl and put it in his bowl. "Eat it." Mei Shui brought out the meal from the kitchen and saw An Liang sitting at the table. It was true that Mei Shui accepted An Liang's little brother, but the prerequisite was that he could not compete with her for food. "She gave them chicken yesterday. Let's do it again today, hum." "What are you doing here?" Mei Shui said with a hint of displeasure in her tone. Grandma He immediately laughed when she saw Xiaoxiu's behavior. "He is a dog and comes here by smell." And Liang liked this cousin-in-law very much. He saw the displeasure on her face, but he knew in his heart that her sister-in-law definitely didn't really want to see him. "Haha, who asked my sister-in-law to make the food so delicious?" And Liang said with a flattering look on his face. So the lunch for 2 became a party of 3. When Aunt Mei Lian didn't see her son come back after dinner and came to look for someone, she saw her son there eating so much. It was really embarrassing. "You brat, you've eaten all the meat of your third grandma, let's see what compensation you get." Aunt Mei Lian walked in without any greeting. And Liang felt a little scared when he saw his mother. "Mom, the third grandma asked me to eat." Grandma He also put down her chopsticks. "He didn't eat my meat." "The old woman's meat was not for him to eat," she said jokingly. Mei Shui called Aunt Milian and made room for her to sit down. He started to clear the dishes on the table. "Why is my timing always wrong?" Additional updates are coming, don't forget to vote. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 42. Chapter 42, An Liang's Important Task. "You brat, why don't you go help me?" Aunt Mei Lian glared at her expressionless son angrily. After the two of them left, Aunt Milian began to ask about what happened this morning. It turned out that after Grandma He and the others left, the eldest grandma regretted it and squatted at the gate. Everyone was close enough to hear the whole story. When they knew what it was, no one came forward. "It's not easy for Xiaoxiu to eat plums. I have a good one on the mountain. I'll pick it back for Xiaoxiu in a few days." Aunt Milian also understands her temperament and never borrows anything from her. "I know. If her white plum blossoms hadn't matured prematurely, do you think I would have gone?" Grandma He felt very uncomfortable when she talked about this. Forget it, Auntie is just like this. You don't know it? Don't be angry with her, or you may get angry and ruin your health. Aunt Milian comforted her. I know, I'm not angry. I've known her for decades, but I didn't expect that just yesterday I took Xiaoxiu's things, and now her face would change. I really didn't expect that she would still be the same as when she was young. Hate. Grandma, he said she was not angry, but could she really not be angry? I saw sister-in-law 11 Lian going up the mountain earlier. I'm afraid she was picking plums for Xiaoxiu. Don't worry about it. There are many people who like Xiaoxiu, so she is the only one who likes her. I originally wanted to take Xiaoxiu to the Zillion Mountains to have a look, but Xiaoxiu didn't let me go. Forget it, don't try to take advantage of others in the future. Grandma, he was also cold-hearted. But Aunt Milian knows that third aunt only has a mouth, but she actually has a better mind than anyone else. After the dishes were washed, Aunt Mei Lian took An Liang home. After returning home, she gave An Liang an important task, asking him to go to the mountains to find some ripe plums for Xiaoxiu. This matter is a trivial matter to An Liang. There are all boys who climb mountains and trees and go fishing in the water. They are more familiar with mountains than these adults. After receiving the instruction, he played even crazier. Meixiu didn't know these things. Shortly after Aunt Milian left, Aunt Zillian came to the door. Seeing her come in with a small basket, Mei Shui saw the contents inside, which were plums. Maybe I had expectations before, but now, I feel a dislike for Mei Izi and Mei Shui. You're really here. Let's sit down for a while. Just now, Mei Lian was saying that you went up the mountain. I think you went to pick plums. Grandma, he didn't show politeness to her and directly took the basket and put it on the table. Xiaoxiu wants to eat plums. There are some on our mountain, so I went to have a look. I didn't expect them to be quite ripe. I'll give them to Xiaoxiu, Aunt Zillian said with a smile. Looking at her like this, I'm afraid she also knew what happened in the morning. Thank you, Aunt Zillian. Seeing her grandma take it, Mei Shui immediately thanked her. There is no need to thank you. If you want to say thank you, you have to thank your aunt. That pheasant is very valuable. We also enjoyed the blessing of Xiaoxiu and ate a chicken. Generally, families don't have chicken to eat until the Chinese New Year. You're welcome. Anwen and the others also contributed. Mei Shui still knew about favors and accidents. She is just defensive. It's not that I don't know how to interact with people. After the conversation, Aunt Zillian took the basket and left. In the afternoon, Aunt Ting also delivered a basket of plums, but this time Grandma he did not show up. Aunt Ting knew the virtues of her mother-in-law, so she didn't say much. She just said that the plums were ripe and she would give them to Xiaoxiu and Aunt Three to taste. Of course Mei Shui accepted it, because she got it in exchange for chicken. Since the eldest grandma is so stingy, she cannot be generous. In the afternoon, the sun was too strong and there was not much work to do at home except pulling weeds in the fields. Mei Shui asked the old lady to stay at home while she went to the fields to walk around. The old lady shook her head, reluctantly, because she was afraid that she would be upset when she saw that person at home. So he followed Xiaoxiu to the fields. Every household's rice in the field has turned yellow, so her family's rice is packed. However, she hasn't been here for a long time, and it feels like her rice has grown a lot. Those ear buns are all very swollen, and you can tell at a glance that they are well packed, and there will definitely be a bumper harvest this year. Grandma he thinks this is Xiaoxiu's blessing. Since Xiaoxiu arrived at home, her family's life has been the same day by day, and she has also enjoyed the blessings of children and grandchildren that she had not been able to enjoy earlier. There is still a shallow layer of water in the field. This is the last time to add fertilizer to the rice. As long as the weather is not too dry, there is no need to put water in the field. It will not be until after the rice is harvested that the fields will be filled with water again to soften the mud so that it can be plowed next year. Of course, These things are still far off. After pulling up some grass in and around the field, the two of them walked home under the sun. You still have to go to the vegetable plot. Now most of the vegetables are grown at home, but some vegetables are almost planted. Mei Shui has never farmed before, so she obeys Grandma He's instructions in everything she does. Grandma said these vegetables could be pulled out, so she pulled them out and asked her to sit under the shade of a tree to rest. Anyway, the mother-in-law and grandson lived a fulfilling life. Plus having electricity at night, Mei Shui likes the peaceful days even more. With nothing to do, Mei Shui used various methods to replenish Grandma He's body every day. If it weren't for the poor quality of the doctors in the village, Mei Shui would have wanted to use those traditional Chinese medicines. Well, mainly because she wanted to try what the legendary medicinal diet tasted like. She had only seen it in books, but had never even smelled it. July has passed very quickly, because every household is busy working in the fields, and some people go to the market every time. It can be said that this month can also be regarded as a harvest month. In a blink of an eye, August is here, and some early rice farmers have begun to harvest rice. Mei Shui doesn't worry about the rice in her field every day, and she basically runs every day. On this day, before Mei Shui could rush out, she discovered that there were about 10 carriages in the village. After asking, I learned that today is the beginning of the month, the day when wood is sold in the village. The wood is sold to a lumber factory in the town. There are talented people in the village who deliver directly to the lumber factory, so the village basically cuts down some trees from its own mountain and sells them back. It costs nothing anyway, and everyone is very motivated. It can be said that selling wood is the bulk of the village's income. Grandma, can we chop down the wood on the mountain? When Mei Shui heard that there was money, she had an idea. It's just that she has to ask her grandma something. Grandma he knew what Xiaoxiu was thinking. Back then, she was at a disadvantage because she was the only one. Her man left early and she was bullied by the villagers. There's nothing important on our mountain, they're just small trees that people won't harvest. Grandma he shook her head. Mei Shui clearly felt the sadness in her grandma. She didn't know why, but at this time she didn't dare to ask any more. Forget it, the worst she can do is not sell wood. Get your votes. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 43. Chapter 43, Sending Plums. Grandma, let's go back to eat. We will catch the chickens and plant some vegetables, then we will sell vegetables. Since Grandma felt sad when she mentioned the mountain, she just didn't ask. Good boy Grandma. He patted Mei Shui's hand and followed her into the house. After breakfast, Grandma he put on her and walked into the fields. Mei Shui saw that her grandma's face had lost its usual smile, so she didn't ask much and followed behind her. She just hoped that her grandma would be happy soon. On this day, the two of them joined forces and opened a two-part vegetable field on the mountain. Xiaoxiu, stop digging, let's go home. Grandma he beat her sore waist and shouted to Xiaoxiu who was still digging there. Let's go home for dinner, it's noon. Meixiu looked up at the sky. The sun was already high in the sky. The horse-drawn carriages collecting wood by the creek have long since disappeared. After returning home, Grandma he drank 2 large glasses of water before she recovered. Xiaoxiu, there is a big gathering the day after tomorrow. Let's go to the street with Grandma to buy some seeds. She doesn't grow many vegetables, and some seeds certainly don't know how to grow them. Too much. Just like Xiaoxiu said, if you don't have wood to sell, you can grow vegetables. Selling vegetables is much easier than cutting wood. Okay, I'll go with Grandma. Mei Shui was still very concerned about buying seeds. Because she has space and water, she can grow vegetables no matter what season she wants. Not to mention selling summer vegetables in the middle of winter, even selling fresh fruits is a piece of cake. It's a pity that Mei Shui doesn't have that much energy to do it for the time being, and she doesn't dare to do it. Of course Grandma He is willing for Xiaoxiu to go with her. She works at home every day, so Xiaoxiu should have a free day. Okay, let's go together. Since the two of them have opened two large plots of land again, Grandma He plans to buy more this time to buy vegetables. Ask the people in the village why you might as well spend a few cents yourself, and what you buy is better than what you want. On the day of the big market, Mei Shui followed her grandma to the market to see if there were any vegetable seeds. Generally, there are two types of vegetables to buy, one is sold by the villagers themselves. The other option is to go to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy. Mei Shui didn't understand this. After seeing that her grandma couldn't find satisfactory vegetable seeds after searching all morning, Mei Shui couldn't help but ask. Grandma, is this the only place where vegetables are sold? Mei Shui was afraid that her grandma would be exposed to the sun, so she pulled her to stand under the eaves. Seeing her grandma sweating profusely, Mei Shui felt very distressed. Grandma He wiped the sweat from her face with her sleeve. They are also sold in the supply and marketing cooperative, she replied casually. As soon as Mei Shui heard this, she dragged her grandma to the supply and marketing cooperative. There are a wide variety of vegetables inside. Not only that, but there are also many varieties that people in the village have never grown. Mei Shui was thinking about selling vegetables. After communicating with the salesperson, Mei Shui bought many kinds of vegetables that were not grown in the village. Grandma He didn't agree. She felt that these vegetables might not be viable for growing, but she couldn't resist Mei Shui, and in the end they bought everything they needed. On the way back, Grandma He looked distressed. She didn't expect to spend several yuan to buy some vegetables. How many vegetables would it take to sell them back? Mei Xiu is not as worried as her grandma. She is thinking about cultivating more vegetable plots. After returning home, Mei Shui asked about the vegetable field. Grandma, does the area around that vegetable field belong to us? Upon hearing this, Grandma He nodded. Well, it's ours. What's wrong? That mountain belongs to the village, and whoever carves out the land belongs to whom? I also want to open a few more vegetable plots with so many seeds. Our land is not enough, Mei Shui said with a slight smile. Don't be greedy. You may not be able to sell these vegetables after you grow them. Also, Grandma has never grown these vegetables before, so I don't know how to take care of them. Grandma He is not afraid of contributing, but she is afraid that Xiaoxiu will feel disappointed. It's okay, let's learn. If we don't know how, it doesn't cost much anyway, and it's just a matter of effort. Grandma, you will work hard from now on and cook at home while I go to open a field, Mei Shui said with the momentum of the head of the family. Grandma He wanted to go and help, but after seeing Xiaoxiu's willingness, she nodded obediently. Okay, Grandma listened to Xiaoxiu. After things were arranged, Mei Shui started to clear the land that afternoon. After all, it was a mountain. If she wanted to turn it into a vegetable field, she had to dig with a hoe. No matter what the people in the village were like, Mei Shui and Grandma He lived a very quiet and peaceful life. In about 4 or 5 days, Mei Shui had almost planted 2 acres of vegetable land. Also used up all the water in Grandma's reservoir. Grandma, the ground has been dug, it hasn't rained these days and the water on it has dried up. I will go fetch water tomorrow. When she got home, Mei Shui ate the rice cooked by her grandma. It was delicious. Sure, Grandma will be with you tomorrow. Grandma can still do the work of carrying water, Grandma He said with a distressed look on her face. No, I'm very strong and can pick it up quickly. I can pick it up in the afternoon, Mei Shui said nonchalantly. These days, the plums on the mountain are all ripe. Under the supervision of his mother, En Liang selected several large and sweet plum trees. It was a good time for picking. En Liang spent a day picking plums. Third grandma, at noon, there were too many plums, so En Liang had to send them back first. Carrying a load of plums, En Liang ran directly to his third grandma's house. These days, Grandma he has been thinking of ways to make delicious food for Xiaoxiu. She is thinking about how to feed Xiaoxiu at home every day. As soon as she hears the sound, she runs out of the kitchen. What are you doing, En Liang? Grandma he still had a knife in her hand, and she was chopping vegetables. Third grandma, what are you doing with the knife? En Liang took a step back in fear. Seeing him like this, the third grandma cursed and put the knife in the kitchen. Come in, what are you doing? Of course grandma he saw the plums En Liang picked. En Liang went to the well first, drank water for a long time, and then replied to the third grandmother, my mother said that my sister-in-law wants to eat plums. No, I found some big and sweet plums on the mountain. I gave them to my sister-in-law. Here comes the plums. Hearing En Liang's words, Grandma he smiled, your mother is really interested. Okay, Grandma San has accepted this plum. Have you eaten yet? She likes Xiaoxiu, and she likes others to like Xiaoxiu even more. She likes everyone who is good to Xiaoxiu. Not yet, I'm just coming back and will go back to eat in a while. En Liang replied smoothly without thinking too much. What are you going to eat when you go back? Eat here. Third grandma made delicious food today. You can eat more later. Grandma he smiled. En Liang was a little embarrassed and touched his head. He really wanted to eat here, but if he really ate here, his mother would definitely scold him. Grandma he is a good person. She can tell what En Liang is thinking at a glance. It's okay. I'll tell your mother later that there are too many plums. You can help third grandma wash and dry the plums. Please support me for the new book. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 44. Chapter 44, Let's Go Together. There is so much, how much can you eat? Why not dry it into dried prunes and give Xiaoxiu a snack? Hey, I listened to third grandma's advice and Liang likes to eat third grandma's food, it's delicious. It tastes better than his mother's. Looking at those big and red plums, grandma he felt very sweet in her heart. When Mei Shui came back, she saw plums spreading out in her yard to dry. They were all bright red and very tempting, but unfortunately, she had tasted them before and they were very sour. An Liang, why are there so many plums? Mei Shui asked, looking at the plums drying in the thin frame. Sister-in-law, you are back. Haha, don't you want to eat plums? The plums are ripe now. I picked some for you, En Liang said, a little embarrassed. Mei Shui still doesn't understand anything. Aunt Mei Lian must be thinking about what happened last time, so she asked En Liang to pick plums for her to eat. It made her feel a little embarrassed. Thank you. No matter whether the plums are delicious or not, she has to know what others think. There are so many plums, it's really hard for you. It's okay. There are a lot of them on the mountain. There are still 2 trees in the afternoon. I will pick some more and bring them back. The third grandma said that I will dry them all for my sister-in-law to make prunes, and Liang kept saying with hands and feet. Mei Shui was speechless. How much did she like to eat? It's just that she hasn't eaten it before and wants to try it. How come she wants to eat it? Forget it, she can't brush off grandma's feelings. Then I'll go with you in the afternoon. Mei Shui thought that she hadn't gone up the mountain in some days. The meat at home is almost gone. It would be great if we could meet some more pheasants on the mountain. Sure, I'll take my sister-in-law with me in the afternoon. And Liang didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Grandma he heard Xiaoxiu's voice in the kitchen and walked out immediately. Xiaoxiu is back. Come and have a rest. The sun is strong outside, so don't bask in the sun. Hearing these words of concern, En Liang was stunned. Wasn't he just basking in the sun? How can the third grandma be treated differently? Let me help En Liang finish these plums. Mei Shui did not agree with her grandma and directly helped En Liang wash the plums. The two of them were faster than one. By the time Grandma he called for dinner, all the plums had been dried. Here we come. At the dinner table, Grandma he cooked fried pork with chili peppers, loofah soup, and red bean rice. Because she didn't know En Liang would come to eat, Grandma he later added fried eggs with leeks. Thanks to En Liang. En Liang's eyes widened when he saw the dishes on the table. Third Grandma, your food is really good, En Liang said with envy on his face. Grandma he patted his head angrily, your sister-in-law has been working in the mountains these days. She needs to take a good supplement, otherwise she will lose weight, so she eats better. If she eats like this every day, third Grandma will laugh. Grandma he is very strict about not showing off her wealth. They all know that my sister-in-law is clearing up wasteland in the mountains these days, so they can understand if she eats well. Then today I have taken advantage of my sister-in-law and had another meal of meat. It is not just for a half-grown man to be poor. En Liang is like this now. He is 15 or 16 years old. It is the time when he is growing up and he eats a lot. If you really let go of your stomach to eat, you are afraid that there will be no more than he eats at home. So as long as the food is not good, it is good to be full. Stop talking nonsense and eat quickly after eating, go back and take a nap. I'll go up the mountain with you in the afternoon also, call En Wen and ask him if he wants to come with you. Mei Shui knocked on the table angrily. Anyone who competes with her for food is a bad person. No matter how much she eats, the pain in Mei Shui's bones cannot be changed. Seeing his sister-in-law's change of expression, En Liang didn't dare to say anything and started eating immediately. After En Liang got to know the third grandma and her family, he didn't know what politeness meant at all. He ate 2 large bowls at once, and he didn't put down his bowls and chopsticks until the water was in his throat. Okay, let's go back and take a nap after a while, otherwise we won't be energetic in the afternoon. Grandma he started to drive people away. Mei Shui also took the last bite, and all the food on the dining table was empty. After En Liang left, Mei Shui laughed and said, Grandma, didn't Grandma come to see you today? Since the last incident, the eldest grandma has not been here for several days. She used to run here every day. She still has the nerve to come here. Huh, even if she comes, I won't pay attention to her. She is really angry when Grandma he talks about her sister-in-law, she gets angry. Grandma, don't be angry. En Liang sent so many plums today. I'm afraid that Grandma will be embarrassed to live at Aunt Ting's house after seeing them. Mei Shui teased. Oh, you don't know the things your eldest grandma did when she was young, otherwise, you wouldn't even pay attention to her. Grandma he still didn't say more about what happened. Mei Shui has been working hard these days, and taking naps has become a habit. After helping her grandma clean up, she went back to the house to rest. After a nap, I got up and carried a few more loads of water in the afternoon. The pool above was almost full. Because she added space for water. It was her first time growing vegetables, and she was determined to earn money for her grandma to count, so she put in more space for water. By the time En Liang and En Wen arrived, Mei Shui had just returned from carrying water. Here you are, wait for me for a while. Mei Shui walked towards the courtyard carrying a bucket. Grandma, I went up the mountain with En Liang and the others. You should be careful at home and wait until I come back to do the heavy work. Mei Shui held a bucket in her hand, which is convenient for loading anything, and she also carried a handful of firewood. Knife. Okay, you go, there is nothing to do at home, you should be careful. Grandma he might be able to clean up the house, holding a rag in her hand, and walked out of the house listening to Xiaoxiu's voice. After seeing En Liang and En Wen, Grandma he said a few words to them, you guys too, don't go to the mountains. There are a lot of animals in the mountains now. This is the time when animals come out to look for food. I know, third Grandma. The two of them responded quickly. Looking at the backs of the three of them, Grandma he shook her head, why does this kid like to go into the mountains so much? After muttering, Grandma, he got busy again. Sister-in-law, what are you doing with the bucket? And Liang asked in confusion when he saw the bucket in Mei Shui's hand. Don't you usually take a basket when you go up a mountain? It's convenient. Many people have harvested their rice. Let's go see if there are any loaches or eels. She had seen many people harvesting rice a few days ago, but she had been thinking about not being able to eat the eels. Hearing what the sister-in-law said, the two of them laughed. Haha, sister-in-law, I actually plan to go and have a look today. Let me tell you, the second master's land has been harvested, but no one in his family is digging for loaches. Speaking of this, En Liang and Wen both had smiles on their faces. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 45. Chapter 45, Where are the plums? Asking for recommendation votes. Mei Shui rolled her eyes and said, I didn't tell you earlier. She glanced at En Liang and said, you haven't led the way yet. There's no rush for plums. There were so many plums at home, enough to last for a long time. Besides, she doesn't really like the taste of plums if she eats too much of them. But eels are different from loaches. They are meat. Okay, I'll take my sister-in-law there. The second master belongs to a different branch of the He family in the village. They are all named He, but they are not from the same ancestor. The road is a bit far, sister-in-law, let's walk faster. There are also loaches in the ditches like the ones they walked in, but they are very small and have no meat. Like the loaches and eels in the fields, they are different. They are all very big, and they are very satisfying to eat. The second master's field was really far away. After walking for more than an hour, Mei Shui saw a piece of harvested land in a mountain nest. Sister-in-law, here we are. Look, there is still water in the field. This was not the first time En Liang came here, and he was very excited after seeing the water in the field. Having water is good, but having water proves that there are many things. Meixiu said nothing and followed their steps to the field. Sister-in-law, can you cook eels? An Liang and An Wen began to separate, because it is impossible for the three of them to be together. That will delay things. Mei Shui didn't look down on him and gave him a disdainful look. Bibi. Have to. The three of them were divided into three parts, one person on each side. Mei Shui stopped talking nonsense to them and started her own performance. She doesn't need to turn it over, just leave some space for the water to come out, and just wait on top. As expected, the space water was full of temptations for these small animals, and soon some eels and loaches ran out of the holes. Mei Shui has a sharp eye and quick hands. She catches one of them every time she catches them, and then throws them out with a look of disgust on the small ones. I don't know how long it took, but Mei Shui also moved to several places. She felt that she had almost caught them. After seeing that there were more than half a bucket of eels and loaches, she walked out of the field. Are you okay? She didn't plan to catch any more, there were too many, and she was afraid of running away. The bucket cannot be filled too full. I don't know what happened. In the past, En Wen and En Liang could find eels and loaches as soon as they entered the fields. Today, it took them most of time to catch just a few. It is still very small. Sister-in-law, how many did you catch? En Liang glanced at the ground that his sister-in-law had plowed over. The water was very turbid and he couldn't see clearly. But from beginning to end, he probably didn't catch much. Not much, enough to eat. Mei Shui washed the mud from her feet. The two of them also turned over a lot of land, but they couldn't find anything, so they had no choice but to return to the ridge. Brother En Wen, where are you? En Wen tilted his basket to show En Liang. There aren't many in it, maybe a dozen. There are all big and small. When they came to the creek, the two of them took a look at Mei Shui's bucket, and then they began to doubt their life. It wasn't until Mei Shui came up clean that the two of them came to their senses. Sister-in-law, why did you catch so many? En Liang was very excited. Meixue smiled and said, "It's not much. It's enough for the three of us." After saying that, she picked up the bucket and said, "Let's go back first and then go pick plums. When you say it's time to pick plums, just pick plums. The sun is still high, so it's still too late to pick them. It has only been more than 3 hours since the three of them went out." When they came back, they were carrying a bucket full of loaches and eels. Grandma he looked at the three of them with a confused look on her face. "Didn't you say we were going to pick plums?" Grandma he helped them pour the loaches and eels into the basket. "Well, they said it's okay to pick plums later, so I went to the second uncle's field to have a look." Mei Shui pushed the pot. However, En Liang and En Wen, who were excited, didn't think too much and just nodded as if they were responding to Mei Shui's words. Grandma he didn't know what Mei Shui looked like when she saw her. "Okay, let's divide it up and take it home to clean up. If you are arrogant, I can't take care of so much by myself." Mei Shui saw her grandma letting her go easily, and said with a weak expression, "Grandma, let me help you." And Wen and En Liang took action immediately after hearing this. A bucket of loaches and eels is shared among 3 families. Each of them has a lot, so it's no problem to eat 1 or 2 meals. After sending An Liang and the others away, Grandma he immediately asked Mei Shui, "Tell me, why did you go digging for loaches again?" Knowing that Grandma would ask, Mei Shui had to defend herself plausibly. In any case, it was not her fault in the end. "Grandma knows you have good intentions, but it's not good that you are always like this." Grandma he has been a good person for so many years, but she is afraid that people's hearts will not be the same. "Grandma, don't worry, I know that these are small things, and they can catch a lot of them in the fields. It's just that I'm a little more experienced than them." After seeing that Mei Shui was measured, Grandma he didn't say much. It was impossible to pick plums anymore. Before the 2 of them had finished cleaning up, Aunt Milian and Aunt Zillian came. "Third aunt, why did you give them so much?" Aunt Milian started to complain as soon as she entered the yard. She is the one who suffers the most. "Why, you're still not happy? Fine, you can give it back to me." Grandma he was not used to her bad character. "Third aunt, you know that's not what I meant." And Liang said that Zioxia caught these things. "I'm a little embarrassed to give him so much." While talking, Aunt Mei Lian also came to the side to help clean up the loaches and eels in the basket. The same goes for Aunt Zillian. She doesn't talk much, but she also sincerely likes Aunt 3. It's just that An Wen and the others don't have this ability. The eel that Zioxia caught last time was worth a lot of money. It would be great if Zioxia could sell it. It would make a lot of money. Grandma he rolled her eyes at the 2 of them and said, "Just say, you should bring it. It's really not shameful at all." But the 2 of them were not angry either, chatting and laughing with Grandma he. Meixue's position was also taken away. She had no choice but to step aside and go about her own business. Listening to their gossiping together, Mei Shui realized a different true meaning of life. It's just selling money. After their own fields have finished harvesting rice, she will definitely go harvest it. If there is more, she will sell it. However, she cannot sell it in the town because the price is too low. This time, Mei Shui did not send it to the eldest grandmother, but she gave a little to Aunt Ting, not much, just enough to make a bowl. The next day, Mei Shui and Grandma he went to the vegetable field to plant vegetables. When they came back, they found En Liang and En Wen waiting at the door of their courtyard. Both of them were carrying the load. Mei Shui had a sharp nose and could smell it. "Why are you picking plums again? There are so many, are you trying to wholesale them?" "Third grandma, sister-in-law, you are back." As soon as they saw the person, the 2 of them immediately stood up from the ground. "It's not that we didn't pick them yesterday. If we don't pick them today, the plums will fall to the ground and they will all be wasted," and Liang said with a friendly look on his face. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, the farmer's wife is the boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 46. Chapter 46, Plum Wine. Grandma he opened the courtyard door and said, "Come in." There was a rare kindness on her face. "Let's forget about picking them today. There are so many, and we can't eat them all at home. We may not even finish them all when we make them into plums, so don't pick any more. You can't sell these wild products for much money, and you'll be exhausted from running around. Mei Shui doesn't want all her snacks to be plums in the future. This food is enough for 1 or 2 meals. If you eat it every day, your stomach will be damaged. If you can't eat it, you can make plum wine. Someone at our school collects it," and Liang said casually. If it weren't for his poor craftsmanship, he would have wanted his mother to make some plum wine and sell it. It's a pity that he made it once and it didn't taste good. His father even disliked it and said that his mother had spoiled the wine. That's a good idea. The wines are so fine and expensive. If one of them is bad, they will all be ruined. Instead of selling the money, you will lose the money. Grandma he glared at An Liang angrily. But Mei Shui took it seriously. If it can really be sold for money. She is not afraid that the plum wine she brews will be bad. If there is room for cheating, there will be nothing unpalatable. Are you sure someone wants this? Mei Shui turned to An Liang and asked. An Liang nodded, yes, some people want it, but they also have requirements. The wine must be good, thick, and not sour. He was interested at that time, but he asked seriously. When I came back, I made my mother drink 2 kilograms of wine, and I was beaten up afterward. It makes me feel bad when I think about it. If only my mother had the skill, it would be great, and the conditions at home would be much better. Why, you want to make wine, Xiaoxiu? I can tell you, but Grandma doesn't know how to make wine. This winemaking requires craftsmanship, and it can't be done by just soaking plums in wine. Grandma he was afraid that Xiaoxiu would not be able to think about it. Meixiu said nothing and looked at her grandma with a smile. Grandma he was so stared at by Xiaoxiu that she finally took her anger out on An Liang and kicked him out of the courtyard. On the way back, An Liang looked aggrieved, while An Wen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He could tell that his sister-in-law wanted to be rescued, but the third grandmother didn't agree and was reluctant to scold his sister-in-law. In the end, he had no choice but to settle the score with An Liang. After no one was around, Mei Shui whispered in Grandma's ear, "Grandma, I can make wine, not only plum wine, but also wine, rice wine, etc." In her world, these winemaking methods are unknown. How many there are, all are open and transparent. Unlike now, everything is a craft. Really? Grandma he's eyes lit up. With a look of amazement on his face, he said, "You really know how to do it?" Mei Shui nodded, "Yes, my dad used to know how to do it. My dad liked to have a drink or two, so he brewed rice wine at home, but no one knew about it. There's nothing better than passing the blame to your deceased parents. How about you give it a try, Grandma?" he asked tentatively. "There's no need to try, Grandma. I'll go to the town tomorrow to ask and see what their requirements are. If it can really come true, we can't miss this opportunity. Because plums are a seasonal fruit, if you miss them, you have to wait until next year. But who knows what they will be like next year. I'll go with you." Grandma he was also interested, but she was worried about Xiaoxia going to town alone. Okay, of course Mei Shui was willing. If it can be done by then, we will buy 2 more large tanks. We don't have such a big brewing tank at home. Okay, I'll go find An Cheng later and ask him to send us off tomorrow. Grandma he was well prepared. They had loach and eel for lunch. Mei Shui didn't know much about how to cook these things, so she let her grandma cook. A meal is so fragrant that the plums cannot be washed. They have to wait until they come back tomorrow to clean them up. Mei Shui was afraid that the plums would spoil, so she moved to the house next door to the one where she lived. That room is empty, and there is a bamboo forest behind the house. It is very cool, so it is the best place to put it. With the plan in mind, the mother-in-law and grandson got up early the next day, drove Anken's carriage to the town. And Cheng is an honest boy, and he doesn't ask too many questions. The most important thing is that his third grandma is here, so he doesn't dare to ask. Let An Cheng take them to the place An Liang mentioned first. There is not much land not far from the school, so just look for it. Since they collect wine, there must be a sign, you can find it if you look for it. Let An Cheng find a place to rest for a while, and then Grandma he took Mei Shui to wander around the streets near the school. Mainly used as a place for residents or places to eat, with few people doing business. Mei Shui looked around, her eyes shining, everything was full of life. But compared to doing business, she prefers the current farm life, which is comfortable, free and carefree. When she wants to plant, she can plant. If she doesn't want to, she just sits at home. How comfortable she is. Following Grandma to the last few houses, they finally found the land. Looking at the words written on it, Mei Shui pulled her grandma and said, "Grandma, look," pointing to the big words written with a brush. Grandma he was illiterate, but seeing Mei Shui like this, she thought this was the right place to come. Let's go over and ask. After asking for details, Grandma he saw that the boss had wine jars for sale in his shop, so she ordered 2 big ones without saying a word. Mei Shui secretly gave Grandma 2 pieces of 10 yuan, which added up to 20 yuan. No matter how much the VAT cost, 20 yuan would definitely be enough. Seeing her grandma's domineering look, Mei Shui felt happy. The reason why Grandma he is so happy is that this wine is not cheap. If it is really well made, the price is nothing to say, 1 yuan and 2 pounds per pound. Of course, there are cheap ones too. For example, there are both 50 cents and 30 cents. 1 yuan and 2 pounds is the best kind. The boss also poured out a little bit for Grandma he to taste. Even a layman can taste the taste. No matter what kind of plum wine Xiaoxiu brews, Grandma he will not lose money if she sells it here. The home-brewed rice wine in the village only costs 1 or 2 cents per caddy. Of course, there are expensive ones, but no matter how expensive it is, it will never exceed 50 cents. So, the business is done. She should save more money. Xiaoxiu will have to spend money on everything in the future when she has a baby. Mei Shui didn't know what Grandma was thinking yet, but she became happy after seeing her grandma agree to make plum wine. There is no need to buy wine back in the town, you can just go to the village and buy it, and you can also get some favors. The price is also much cheaper than in town. With 2 large vats, Grandma he asked An Cheng to drive the carriage to a place selling pork, bought a few kilograms of meat, and went back to prepare it for Xiaoxiu, who liked to eat it. An Cheng's eyes were wide open. The third grandma was so generous, buying so much meat. Mei Shui went to the supply and marketing cooperative and bought a lot of rock sugar. The rock candy was calculated by the pound. Mei Shui bought 50 pounds directly, almost buying out the entire supply and marketing cooperative. An Cheng no longer dared to ask any more questions. After hearing the third grandma say the word "go home," he felt as if his heart had dropped to the ground. Hunt the carriage and go home. Recommended votes please. Please reward. Please collect. Please support me. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 47. Chapter 47, Grandma's Favor, please vote for recommendation. On the way back, Grandma he asked An Cheng not to tell anyone what happened today. An Cheng hummed and nodded. Mei Shui doesn't care, so what if she says it out? Is she still afraid? With her fighting prowess, the whole village wouldn't be afraid of her. Of course, that was when the strength was at its peak. Even so, she was not afraid of the people in the village, not even her, even a dozen of them came together. After returning home, Mei Shui directly put the 2 cylinders on her shoulders. When she was about to get up, she was pulled by her grandma. "What's wrong?" Mei Shui asked unclearly. Grandma he rolled her eyes at Xiaoxiu and said, If you don't want any snacks, take these candies back and walk faster so that no one can see them. I'll ask others to help carry these things back. After all, she is a girl, so she can't be too capable. Even if she is capable, she can't spread it to others. She can just embroider whatever she wants to make clothes. But it's really not possible to live with such strength. Mei Shui didn't know, but she obeyed. She took out the 50 kilograms of rock candy from the jar and walked quickly up the mountain, not giving the women gossiping by the stream a chance to check. Those people didn't dare to step forward to pull her after the last fight between Mei Shui and old Mrs. Chen, so they took a sneak peek. But nothing could be seen. When Aunt He came over, they all gathered around her. Now in the village, Mei Shui is no less famous than Aunt He. Even in fights, she is more fierce than Aunt He. Mixu doesn't know what they think, and of course she doesn't care even if she knows, because that's what she wants. Grandma He invited a few men from her nephews at home to help carry the jar home. After putting things away, Mei Shui wanted to go down and help, but when she walked to the door of the courtyard, she saw that her 2 large vats had been carried up. Mei Shui immediately turned around and returned to the house, taking out several washed and dried plastic cups so that others could drink water later. Grandma He's appeal was really good, and soon 2 large vats were carried into the house. "Xiaoxiu, please give uncle and the others a glass of water," Grandma He shouted to Mei Shui in the room with a smile on her face. Mixu had prepared it a long time ago. She also boiled water and put some sugar in it to thank these uncles. "Grandma, here we come." As soon as they saw the person, the uncles all took a look at Mei Shui and found that the child looked very zheng. Thank you, they were not polite, and it took a lot of effort to carry things up the mountain. "You're welcome, uncles, I still have more if you don't have enough," Mei Shui said with a slight smile. They thought it was normal warm water, so they didn't care and nodded. But after drinking it, they were too embarrassed to ask for another glass. Sugar is very expensive. After drinking the water, these people said goodbye to Grandma He and went down the mountain. "Grandma, you are really good, she can carry the tank by herself." He, you can do whatever you want, hurry up and let me drink some water, you're doing a great job." The jar and sugar were bought back, and there were still 2 loads of plums at home that had not been cleaned. Mei Shui kept moving and started picking out the plums in the house. There is no need to wash the plums. Washed plums have a watery smell. Anyway, she has the method. After all, it is the first time to make it, so she still tries it cautiously. Grandma He went to the toilet after drinking water. When she came out, she saw Xiaoxiu putting plums into the jar. "Grandma, you're here just in time, go to the village and buy some wine. If you delay any longer, these plums will go bad." Plums are the most infrequent thing. Grandma He saw that Mei Shui picked out a lot of rotten plums and knew that time waits for no one. "Sure, Grandma will go now, but how much will it cost?" Grandma He asked. "The more the better, I'm afraid there isn't much wine in the village," Mei Zi said with a doubtful look. "You are overthinking. There are many people who like to drink in the village. Besides, we can't just brew a little and sell some. There must be some in stock. Give me the number and I will have them deliver it." Hearing her grandma's words, Mei Shui's heart dropped to the ground. Then it would cost 100 kilograms, just enough for 2 jars to be filled with the bonus of space water. Mei Shui was very confident in herself. "So many," Grandma He was shocked by Mei Shui's words. "Can it be done?" "Grandma, you have to believe me, you can definitely make it happen." Seeing her doubts, Mei Shui immediately looked at her with her black and white eyes. Okay, Grandma knows, I'll buy it for you." Mei Shui took out another 50 yuan and gave it to her grandma. "If it's not enough, let them come to the house to get it. Taking the money, Grandma he walked towards the center of the village with heavy steps. Mixu added some space water while putting the plums in. I wonder if it was her imagination, but the plums touched by the space water seemed to have entered their second spring and began to slowly unfold. The particles are also becoming more and more plump. She did not fill the jar, but stopped after filling it about a third of the way, and then added sugar. This ratio depends on feeling. Mei Shui trusts her own feeling and pours it in without mercy. She thought that after the 2 jars were adjusted, 2/3 of the sugar was gone. It was already past lunchtime, but because she was busy looking for stores and shopping today, she and her grandma hadn't had lunch yet. After sealing the jar with film, Mei Shui went to cook. She didn't realize how hungry she was before she realized it. Now that she thought about it, she felt her stomach hurt from hunger. I don't want to do anything complicated. I still have eggs at home, so I made egg soup and some vegetables. Lunch is ready. Mixu stood outside the yard and looked down the mountain. Standing high and looking far away, she saw her grandma coming back, followed by 2 people. Holding something in her hand, Mei Shui laughed. You guys, wait a minute, don't spill it, it's all money. Grandma he looked at the big wine vat with a distressed look on her face. This is the biggest wine vat for the old drunkard in the village. If it weren't for Xiaoxiu, she really wouldn't want to buy it. There are a full 80 kilograms here, which can be said to be the old drunkard's inventory for more than half a year. It costs 30 cents per caddy. He said this is the best wine. Hey, he bullied the old woman into not drinking and was not following the rules. Grandma he can be weak in front of Mei Shui, but in front of outsiders, she is very strong. From 30 cents per pound to 25 cents per pound, it's really a great skill. Don't worry, and our hands are steady and we won't let you spill the wine. The 2 men carrying the wine vat were the sons of old drunkards. They also learned the art of winemaking from their father, and they would go out to sell wine on weekdays. Those who walk around the countryside have very nimble legs and feet. That's good. If it spills, I'll deduct your money. Grandma Xiao Guangming, threatened in an upright manner. This is the first time for the 2 of them to come into contact with Aunt He. They rarely encounter her on weekdays, so they really don't know her well. However, I have been traveling around for a long time and have met a lot of people, so I can still accept this kind of difficulty. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 48. Chapter 48, Teach You. Grandma he finally relaxed after going up the mountain and returning home. The main reason was that she was really afraid of spilling the wine. Xiaomei, give your Uncle Zhang and Uncle Zhang a glass of water. They are tired from the journey. Grandma he was still very reasonable. Thank you, sister. No matter how tired they are, they both have smiles on their faces, which makes people feel friendly at first glance. You're welcome, uncle, please sit down for a moment and I'll get you some water. Both of them smelled of wine, and it seemed they had been exposed to alcohol for a long time. Perhaps she will be in contact with them again in the future, and Mei Shui's attitude has also changed accordingly. Grandma he noticed the change in Xiaoxiu, but she just glanced at it. After seeing the glint in Xiaoxiu's eyes, she didn't say anything. After paying for the wine, Grandma he asked them to carry the wine vat tomorrow. They didn't have any objection, so they took the money and went down the mountain to go home. The inventory for half a year was sold out in one go, so I had to go back and make some more wine. After seeing off the guests, Mei Shui asked her grandma to eat together first. She had been busy all day and was so hungry that she fainted. After dinner, Grandma he was washing the dishes, and Mei Shui poured the wine into her own plum jar. Maybe it's only 80 kilograms, and the 2 jars are just full. It is said to be a 50-pound jar, but it can hold at least 55 pounds. Mei Shui watched the plums floating one by one, and she could not hide the smile in her eyes. Grandma will definitely be very happy when these wines are sold. The plum wine was ready, but there were still a lot of plums left. She remembered An Liang and An Wen's gift of plums. During dinner, Mei Shui put forward her opinion to her grandma. Grandma, there are still a lot of plums left. Do you think we should let An Liang and his family come together to learn how to make wine? She will be kind to whoever treats her well, fairly. When Grandma he heard this, she was a little reluctant. Xiaoxiu, are you going to teach them to make plum wine? She believed in Xiaoxiu wholeheartedly, even if she had never seen Xiaoxiu's finished product, she believed it unconditionally. But will others believe it? It doesn't matter, everyone's brew will taste different even if I teach them, they may not brew the same flavor as me on this point, she can guarantee it. Grandma he looked at such a confident granddaughter-in-law, and her heart was full of pride. Well, your Aunt Zillion and Aunt Milian are pretty good, but you can't just teach them. Tell your Aunt Ting to see what she is mean. Grandma he is very shrewd. If she really calls her Zillion and the others, then the wife in the main court will definitely have objections. Meixu raised her head and glanced at her grandma. Seeing that she was thinking in her eyes, she nodded indifferently. Oh, okay. Actually, she really had no intention of teaching Aunt Zillion and Aunt Milian. What she wanted to teach was An Liang and An Wen. But, forget it. She should ask An Liang and the others tomorrow. After the plum wine is sealed, it will take another half a month to ferment, because the weather is good. Mei Shui also used yellow mud to seal the mouth of the cylinder, which caused the air to leak. The next day, Mei Shui got up early and waited at the gate of the yard, fearing that An Liang and the others would go up the mountain early to cut down trees. Fortunately, she got up early, otherwise she might not have been able to touch him. An Liang, and Wen, come up here, Mei shouted immediately when she saw the person. There were two adults beside them, and they knew who they were without even thinking. Uncle Genkai, Uncle Gensi, I have something to do with An Liang and the others. Mei Shui smiled and said to He Genkai and the others. This is the first time that the two of them met Mei Shui head on. It's Xiaoxiu. Do you need help from these two guys for something at home? It's okay. Go ahead. He Genkai knew how much his mother-in-law liked this girl, but he couldn't let her show off. He Gensi was the same. Go and help your sister-in-law with some work, don't let your third grandma get tired. After saying that, the two of them walked towards the mountains together. An Liang and An Wen are a bit easy to talk to, but his father is so easy to talk to. However, my sister-in-law said, there must be something good going on. The two of them ran to the third grandma's house with smiles on their faces. Sister-in-law, as soon as they came closer, the two of them immediately said with a flattering smile, Sister-in-law, what good things are you doing today? The main reason is that the sister-in-law is too experienced. When she goes out with her, she never comes back empty-handed. Seeing the two of them like this, Mei Shui didn't know what they were thinking, so she laughed and said, I'm not going out today, come in, I'll see you if I need anything. The two of them immediately felt depressed after hearing that they could not go out. It was just their sister-in-law who asked them to help. No matter what, they would definitely help her get the job done. When they entered the yard and saw the two large vats next to the sweet-scented osmanthus tree, the two of them were a little dumbfounded. Here, sister-in-law, what is this for? And Liangpi was a little older and stepped forward to smell it. Ah, it's wine. Brother An Wen, it's wine. Look at how excited he was. Sister-in-law, is this the plum wine you made? An Liang said excitedly. Mei Shui smiled and said, no, I called you here today because I have something to ask you. Come and sit down first. Since Mei Shui arrived at this house, the place under the osmanthus tree has become her base. She has placed a table here, and there are 4 chairs. The two of them were so obedient that they sat down. Grandma he was busy making pig food in the kitchen. She listened to the sounds outside, but didn't pay much attention. Since Xiaoxiu has an idea in her mind, let her do it herself. How are you on with An Lin and An Shan from Aunt Ting's family? Mei Shui is not a person who hides things and gets straight to the point. When the two heard this, they nodded together. Brother An Lin and I have a good relationship, and Anshan and An Liang have a better relationship, and Wen replied obediently. There is no way, considering the age, he and An Lin are of the same age, so they must have a better relationship than Anshan. Brother Anshan is older than me, and he takes good care of me in school. They are all brothers, and they take care of each other in school. Let me tell you too something, Mei Shui said without hesitation. As you can see, I can make plum wine. These plums were all sent by you, and there are still some left. I want to ask, do you want to learn? That's right, it's learning. Mei Shui has no intention of getting started, she will just teach them from the sidelines. Ah, sister-in-law, do you want to teach us how to make plum wine? And Liang jumped up. You know, if you really want to learn this thing, then. Feeling the flesh jumping in front of him. An Wen was also frightened by these words. Sister-in-law, does the third grandma know? She is older and has more things to think about. Mei Shui nodded. What else? She glared at the two of them angrily. If your third grandma hadn't agreed, do you think I would have taught you? Mei Shui said with pride. Earning face for grandma is what she should do as a junior. I'll learn, sister-in-law, I'll learn. His family's situation is different. His father is not in good health and needs to take medicine every month. The conditions at home are also a bit worse. If his sister hadn't been helping him, his father would have stopped taking medicine for a long time. Please vote. Remember to cast your recommendation vote every day, and give some to the village girl if you collect it. Thank you. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 49. Chapter 49, He and Wen. But after all, my sister was a married daughter, so she couldn't always help her mother-in-law buy medicines, so she stopped going to school after graduating from high school. At that time, she didn't have a good time and couldn't work in a factory. When he heard that he could learn winemaking from his sister-in-law, An Wen was more excited than anyone else because he wanted to help reduce the burden on his family. His mother said she wanted to go on a blind date with him, but he had heard other people talk about his family's conditions, and he disliked his family's poor conditions and a medicine jar, so the girl's family was not willing to do it. He understands all this, but that doesn't mean he has no ideas. Looking at An Wen, who was so excited, Mei Shui didn't react at all. She didn't know what was going on at Uncle Jensi's house. When An Liang found out, he sighed, Sister-in-law, teach brother An Wen, I won't learn anymore. He also wanted to learn, but... Meixiu frowned, I didn't say I would only teach one, right? If you want to learn, I will teach you. However, you have to buy the materials yourself. Now it depends on whether you are willing or not. Mei Shui planned to ask her grandma about An Wen's family later. Ah, sister-in-law, I can learn from it too. An Liang was very stupid. Haha, you don't have to learn. Mei Shui rolled her eyes at him angrily. No, I will learn, I want to learn, haha, when I learn how to do it, I will buy candies for my sister-in-law. Children are children. Come on, I don't eat sweets. Mei Shui rolled her eyes. All right, ask An Lin and An Shan when you see them. Forget it, I'll go ask Aunt Ting myself. You go home and ask now and see what the family says. Mei Shui drove the two of them home. Then she entered the kitchen, intending to ask her grandma about An Wen's family. Seeing people coming in, Grandma he listened to everything that was said outside. Without Mei Shui opening her mouth, Grandma he started talking. You want to know what happened to your Uncle Jensi's family? Sigh, it's nothing shameful. Grandma he told Mei Shui about Hegency. When he was a child, his family was poor and life was difficult for every household. Hegency was also a handsome young man when he was young, but there was something wrong with him. That is, he injured his foot when he was going to the ground when he was a child. He could not see anything on weekdays, but he could not do heavy work. Like cutting down trees, he can only chop but cannot carry. In other words, his body cannot bear the strength. His feet will lose power and become weak when force is applied to them. Because of the injured muscles and bones, he is fine on weekdays, but when it is windy and rainy, that foot will kill him half of his life. In comparison, among the brothers of the He family, his family's conditions are slightly worse, and he has to raise 2 children, so he endures a lot of hardships on weekdays. It was not until he Hung Mei got married that the family's life became better. Hung Mei is also a filial person. After she established herself in her husband's family, she began to buy medicine for her father's illness. Even if he couldn't cure it, it would be good to alleviate the pain. Wen was able to go to high school only because of his sister, but opportunity did not wait for him. After graduating from school, he really wanted to go to college, but unfortunately, his family had no money. Then he went home like this. The school originally arranged a job for him, but is it so easy to get a job in the city? He has a stupid mouth, and his relationship with teachers and classmates at school is average. Even if he gets a job, there is no back door. I was also bullied after entering. In the end, he couldn't stand being a teacher anymore, so he found someone to buy his job and got a little money, which made his family's life better for a few years. But the money will eventually run out. After a few years, I'm afraid there won't be much money left. After hearing what Grandma said, Mei Shui sighed, everyone's life is not easy. No. Grandma, don't worry. I will build you a big house in the future, give you good food and clothes, and make all the old ladies envy you. Mei Shui stepped forward and hugged her grandma, sighing. Grandma he patted Xiaoxiu's hand, her eyes turning red unconsciously. Even her eldest grandson didn't say these kind words to her. She was criticized in the village from the beginning, and later became notorious. Who knows the pain she suffered? Your Aunt Zillian and Aunt Milian are good friends. If you think An Liang and An Wen are comfortable with it, please help them. Grandma won't force you. Afraid that Xiaoxiu would think too much, Grandma he quickly explained. Well, I listened to Grandma. Compared to the intimacy between Mei Shui and Grandma he, An Liang An Wen is not so safe here. An Wen, do you want to make wine with Xiaoxiu? Aunt Zillian looked at her son's excited expression, and she couldn't say no. It was this family that brought him down. An Wen nodded, Mom, I want to learn. There was determination in his eyes. Aunt Zillian opened her mouth and wanted to refuse, but she couldn't say the words. Okay, you can make up your own mind. You can keep the money. She took out a handkerchief from the straw on the bedside. She didn't know how much money was in it, but Aunt Zillian gave it all to An Wen. An Wen opened it, counted it, took out 10 yuan and returned it all to his mother. We will do less this year. We have a big vat at home. I will go to the mountain to pick the plums myself, but the wine will cost more money. Mom, don't worry, I will study hard. You kid, 10 yuan is not enough. Take 5 more just in case. Seeing how serious her son was, Aunt Zillian also risked her life. There is really much money at home. The money for selling wood last time has not yet ended, so I have to wait for the new year. But their family doesn't have much wood, so it can't be compared with other families. The money is all left over from the first half of the year, and some of it is money from selling vegetables at the market. An Wen finally took the $5 and said, Well, Mom, I listen to you. Compared with Aunt Zillian's reluctance and unwillingness to give up, Aunt Milian's place is much easier. He directly gave 20 yuan to his son. They have a vat at home. They bought it when they married Lixia last time and put it at home to store rice. After An Liang got the money, he immediately came out of the house and met An Wen when he came up. "Brother An Wen, how are you?" An Liang asked with a worried look on his face. An Wen smiled and nodded. An Liang could feel that brother An Wen's aura was different. The whole person is much brighter. "Let's go to my third grandma's house." When the two went to Mei Shui's house, Mei Shui was at Aunt Ting's house. "But I didn't see the eldest grandma today," and Mei Shui didn't think too much about it. "Aunt Ting, what do you say?" After explaining her purpose, Mei Shui asked immediately. Aunt Ting looked at Mei Shui with a smile. "Okay, I'll ask Xiao Shan to find you at noon." "Thank you Xiao Shui for caring about my aunt's family after the last time." Aunt Su knew that her mother-in-law had offended her third aunt again. She felt quite uncomfortable when she saw the loaches and eels brought back by An Liang and An Wen. It's just her mother-in-law who's at fault, so she can't say anything about it. "I just endured it by myself, but I didn't expect that Zioxu would still think about me when something good happened." The author went out for a walk today, but the heavy rain came and now the author has become a drowned rat. But I still want to update you, there are not many such good authors left. Please vote for recommendations, please give me rewards. Please support me. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 50. Chapter 50, Sensible An Liang. Aunt Ting had many thoughts in her mind, and finally felt that her mother-in-law was not as important as Zioxu. It's not that she is unfilial, but that her life is difficult. Besides, my mother-in-law is used to living with the Zhengjing family, so she can just send more food there on weekdays. After sending Zioxu away, Aunt Ting immediately packed up and went to the back mountain to call Anshan and asked him to come back and learn to make plum wine with Zioxu. This is a long-term business. If it can really succeed, then they both have a longing for a better life. Of course, they both believe more in the sister-in-law who brings them miracles and satiates their hunger. When Mei Shui came back, she saw An Liang and An Wen standing at the entrance of the courtyard. They looked very excited and said, "You are here." Sister-in-law, both of them handed over the money in their hands a little stupidly. "Mei Shui Fang. What are you doing?" Mei Shui asked with a smile. The main reason was that these two guys were so funny. Maybe it was the first time they had received so much money, which made them excited. "Sister-in-law, we don't know what we need to prepare for making wine. The money is used to buy things for making wine." And Liang came to his senses faster than An Wen, with a trace of embarrassment on his face. "You don't have to give it to me. I'll tell you what you need. You can just buy it yourself. Also, you all have a big tank at home." Mei Shui opened the courtyard door and asked as she walked. "I have a 30-pound one at home," and Wen answered first. "An Liang is not behind either. I also have a 50-pound rice bag at home. My sister bought it when she got married. After using it, I keep it with rice. Since you have everything, that's good. You go buy some more sugar and wine. And when, you buy 20 caddies of wine. The vat is too small, and I'm afraid it will be full after fermentation. An Liang, you buy 40 caddies of wine. And when, I think you still need to buy a tank. 30 pounds is really not much money." Mei Shui preached to An Wen and the others seriously. Now that she learned about the affairs of Uncle Jensi's family, Mei Shui thought in her mind that she would help if she could. An Wen nodded, "Well, I will listen to my sister-in-law. I have 15 yuan. After buying wine and sugar, I can still have some left to buy a vat." An Liang was happy when he heard this. "Sister-in-law, can I buy another tank?" Mei Shui was happy when she saw him like this. "If you believe me so much, what if the wine goes bad?" Mei Shui said angrily. "No, I believe in my sister-in-law. She is a capable person, how could she not brew well?" An Liang said without thinking. "Come on, Let's do this for this year. There are plums every year. It's not necessarily how much you will brew this year, it will be the same next year after you gain experience. You can estimate it yourself, but don't be too hopeful about yourself. After hearing this, En Liang saw that his sister-in-law really disagreed, so he could only accept his fate. Okay, I will listen to my sister-in-law. The plums at home can no longer be used, so Mei Shui asked them to buy the things they need to use today and then pick some plums tomorrow. The tank will almost be sealed tomorrow afternoon. Grandma He watched the three of them chatting from the side, and gained a new understanding of Xiaoxiu's ability. After the others left, Grandma He looked at Xiaoxiu with a worried look on her face. You asked and when to brew so much, what if it doesn't work? Mei Shui also thought about this problem. For the first time, she suffered a little loss. Everyone put a little space water in the tank to make a sign for themselves. Another thing is that the boss of the wine town is afraid that he won't be able to collect that much, and he will have to go to the county to find out more. Grandma, don't worry. I know it well. I still have some sugar at home, and it would be a waste to leave it alone. I'm thinking of brewing another vat. Grandma, what do you think? Mei Shui walked to her and sat down next to her. Ah, you're still brewing it, Grandma. He was surprised. According to what you said, we will only have more than 100 kilograms at home by then. If we continue to brew it, what will happen if the boss lowers the price? Grandma, he is a shrewd person. The first thing she thinks of is to buy more goods at lower prices. It's okay, I'll take Grandma to the county town when I'm free someday. I haven't been there yet, Mei Shui said with a flattering look on her face. Forget it, Grandma is getting old. You can do whatever you want. If you have another one, you can go to the county town. The Mid-Autumn Festival is coming soon. Let's go see Ans and ask him if he will be back for the festival. It's been so long, Grandma. He also misses her grandson. In the past, he would come back at least once a month, but this time it has been so long and I haven't seen him come back. I don't know if something happened. Mei Shui felt hairy when she heard this name. Could she refuse? Okay, I'll listen to Grandma. After seeing the longing on Grandma's face, Mei Shui decided to accompany Grandma to see him. You're tired, take a rest. Seeing Xiaoxiu being so good, Grandma He's heart was as sweet as honey. I don't know what En Liang and En Wen did. After dark, they arrived at Mei Shui's house carrying wine. Fortunately, every household now has electric lights, otherwise everyone would have gone to bed early. Why are you guys here so late? After hearing the sound, Mei Shui came out and opened the door and asked. Sister-in-law, we bought the wine and the vat, En Wen said with excitement. The wine uncle's house in the village ran out of wine, so they went to Lincoln to buy some. So it's a little late. Come in first. Mei Shui was speechless. After buying it, she would put it in her own home. What's the point of letting it go in hers? Grandma He also walked out with a piece of clothing. Who is it, Xiaoxiu? The old man's eyes didn't recognize people much at night, so he could only ask. Grandma, please slow down. It's En Liang and En Wen. They bought wine. Mei Shui walked towards her grandma quickly, fearing that she would fall. You two brats, just go to your own house after buying the wine. What are you doing here at night? You don't care how dark it is. It gets dark very late in summer, and it's almost 90 o'clock at this time. Xiaoxiu also went to bed late. If she had gone to bed early, she might not have been able to get up. Being scolded by the third mistress, it was like having a basin of cold water poured on my head. My heart felt cold and my heart couldn't fly. Third grandma, we were wrong. Forget it, pick it in quickly and go home. You don't have to worry about the family. Grandma He scolded angrily. The two of them were very good. After putting the wine under the eaves, they immediately turned around and ran away. The faster they ran, the faster they ran. I don't know what happened in the afternoon. Anshan didn't come over, and Mei Shui didn't think much about it. It might as well not come, it would save trouble. Okay, Grandma, let me help you go to sleep. Being disturbed, Grandma he couldn't sleep for a while, so she took Mei Shui's hand and went to close the courtyard door together. Xiaoxiu, Anshan didn't come this afternoon, I'm afraid there are changes in your Aunt Ting's family. Grandma he looked outside worriedly. It's okay. If you don't come, don't come. It will save me trouble. Forget it if you don't believe it. Just don't be jealous when the time comes. This is not a waste of time. If An Liang and An Wen really get into trouble, I'm afraid your Aunt Ting's family will be unhappy. People's hearts are changeable. End of this chapter.